on behalf of IEI ADIT Student Branch CVM University.
CVM University encourages students with a creative environment in order to develop and set to work in a real-time workflow environment.
ADIT provides engineering courses in 8 different fields of bachelor's and 4 fields of master's.
IEI goals to bring advancement in the field of engineering. It will be my pleasure to have Dr. Vishal Singh sir, Principal of ADIT, Dr. NC Swan sir, HOD of Information Technology, and Professor Himanshu Patel sir, our faculty coordinator.
It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our today's speaker, Ms. Seema Saharan, who is going to talk to us about Intro to DevOps and the basics of Docker.
Someone well said, there is no limit to what at this young age can accomplish.
Our speaker is currently working as Associate System Engineer at IBM, and she is also the founder of Baz Women Community. Moreover, she is a mentor at Girlscript Summer of Code and DevScript. She also has expertise in cloud computing, Linux, Python, and GitHub.
I heartily welcome to everybody here to Intro to DevOps and Basic of Docker. Now we will let ma'am decode further.
Hello everyone. Thank you for the introduction, and I think we will just start with the workshop or seminar. So let me share my screen. Also, there are some protocols that you can follow. If you have any doubt, just drop it in the chat. I will address that in between or maybe after the session, and I will share all of the links and PPT also that I'm using right now. So feel free to ask me any question, and if you think that your doubt is silly, then especially ask that question. Okay, so I'm just sharing my screen. I think it's visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
It is visible.
Okay, let's start. Okay, so today's topic is Docker and DevOps. So before jumping to the workshop, I just want to introduce myself again. I am currently working as an associate system engineer at IBM. I recently in January started a community called Bash Women Community, and I also have a YouTube channel that I upload many different type of content that I am learning. Also, the new videos that I am coming up with is about Docker. So if you get interested in Docker from this workshops, then you can maybe check out my channel. I am also Red Hat certified and Azure certified Auxiliary ambassador, and I have been contributing to open source for a year now, and also I have also done mentoring in various events. So the workshop outline is that we will start with what is Docker, what are containers, Docker in DevOps, and then we will start with the demo. Okay, so let's start with what is Docker. So the whole workshop lies around this word, what is Docker. Okay, so before knowing that what is Docker, you need to understand how uh, systems work, like servers maybe. So right now you must be using Windows, Mac, or maybe Linux. So right now you have just one operating system, that's it. If you are aware of what virtual machines are, then maybe you can drop it in the chat, but I will explain that what are virtual machines. So my base system is Windows right now, but if I want to use another operating system, how can I do that? I can use virtual machines first thing, or I can use dual booting. Dual booting, I don't like it. You can do that, but it's not efficient much. But in virtual machines, what we do is we use the hypervisor that is in our operating system to enable the virtualization, like a virtual environment. It creates a virtual environment that enables us to create or use more than one operating system in a single machine. So right now, my laptop has one base system, that is Windows, and approx 5 to 8 virtual machines running in my laptop. They are all powered off, but they are present there. So if I want to use maybe Ubuntu, Fedora, Arch Linux, Kali Linux, you must have heard of that name because Kali Linux is very much popular of hacking and stuff. So if you are interested in that, you can learn that. Um, the names which I have mentioned are Linux distributions. Okay, so whenever we talk about just the word Linux, we refer to the Linux kernel. And what our Linux distribution is that we add some softwares, different kind of software, and that made a distribution. So on top of the kernel, we add some softwares or package management and everything that operating system consists of make a Linux distribution. So sorry about that, but that was necessary to understand what Docker is. So I think you got some idea about virtual machines. Now, what is Docker? Why we need Docker? Okay, so about virtual machines, virtual machine is like a complete operating system that need hardware, softwares, and boot up time is so high, and memory usage is pretty much high. And to overcome all of the disadvantages of virtual machines, we came up with the solution of containerization. What containerization is? Whatever software we want or we need, we just install them, only them, and not the whole other software that we don't usually use. So Docker is a tool that enables us to use the containerization. Okay. So now the definition of Docker is an open platform for developing, shipping, and running applications. So let's consider an example. You are running a Flask application. Okay, so if you want to run a Flask application, what you can do is on your base system, on your Windows, you can make the program of Flask app and run it. That is the first option. Now, the second option is you can use virtual machine, but that also requires the whole operating system to work. Third thing that is the most efficient is that you can containerize that application. What does it mean? So the whole Flask app is it will act like a machine that is a container. Okay, that are called containers. Here it is mentioned. So um, that Flask app will run in your container, and it will not take so much boot up time and your disk usage, and that Flask app will run in just 10 seconds, and the whole container will run in about 10 seconds. Okay, I will show you the demo. Don't get confused that I'm not able to understand anything what I'm saying, but I will I will show you the demo, then all the things will be much clear after that. Okay. So the key benefit of Docker is that it allows user to package an application with all of its dependencies into a standardized unit for software development. We just need the Flask app, so why are we installing Java, C++? Okay, so that doesn't make sense, right? So that's why there are containers. Whatever we need, whatever software we need, we just use them. That saves us a lot of space and the boot up time. Okay, and also, unlike virtual machines, containers do not have high overhead and hence enable more efficient. That's what I'm saying for the last 5 minutes. Okay, now containers, I have already explained what are containers. um, okay, so now it's a visual representation of what I was saying, so it will be much more clearer now. So your base system is like this, that is Windows. Okay, and you can make uh, or create many virtual machines, but the virtual machines are whole operating system. So if you want to install Fedora Linux or Ubuntu, so all of the that will be a whole operating system. We don't want that, so that's why there are containers. Also, in virtual machines, there are many disadvantages too, apart from the boot up time and space. Okay, so here you can see that containers take a different approach. By leveraging the low level mechanics of the host operating system, containers provide most of the isolation of virtual machine at a fraction of compute. Okay, so by default, when you talk about Docker, so all of the containers are isolated. Okay, so that's one thing about Docker. They can't communicate with each other. But there is another tool that we can use to communicate the Docker containers. Okay, so again, virtual machines versus containers. So now, focus on this part because that's really important to understand why we needed Docker in the first place, or virtualization or containers. So host operating system was what? Windows or Mac or maybe even Linux. Second is, uh, every operating system has a hypervisor that enables the virtualization. Okay, so using the hypervisor, we can host different virtual machines on top of the base operating system or the host operating system. But in containers, what we do is we just have the host operating system and we just need the runtime files, and on top of that we can run many applications. So in one container we can run as many applications as we want in different ports. Okay, so now the question arises that why DevOps needed Docker, why DevOps included Docker. Okay, so before that, um, you need to understand that what is DevOps actually. So DevOps is Dev for developers, Ops for operations. So in industry, what used to happen was the developers, the coders, used to be in a different team, and the operations team or the testers team even will be on different team. They don't even communicate with each other, so that can cause a lot of problems in, like, suppose you are like 30 people, I don't know. So one three people are in developers team, three people are in operations team. Okay, so they don't communicate with each other. So what will happen? The product launch will be delayed. Maybe they face some issues with the versions of the programming language that they are using. So let's suppose developers team are using Python 3.8 and ops team you were using 3.7, so that can create a lot of miscommunication, okay, and errors. So a lot of dependencies will be there, and they won't be able to ship the product at the right time. So after some discussion, what industry came up with is DevOps. So if you see, this is the symbol or the logo, you can say, for DevOps. So what happened right now in the industry is, for the developers team and the ops team, the operations team, communicate with each other, and they tell each other that what are the updates that they are expecting, what are the versions of the application that they are using. But that can be a problem too. So how Docker helps in DevOps is that Docker uses Docker images. Okay. So what a Docker image is, that we will create a Docker image today. So don't worry about that. So in Docker image, um, all of the software dependencies that developer team is using will be shipped and will be sent to the operations team, so they don't need to worry about what version of Python, Java they are using. So that um, helps a lot. Also, Docker files are used to create Docker images. We will create that, don't worry about that. Okay, now demo. Okay, so um, okay, so you can use Docker in various ways. First is you can use in your base operating system. In Windows there is Docker desktop, but I don't really prefer that because I I do all the development part in Linux environment, so that's why. But you can try that if you are a Windows user or like PowerShell or CMD. But I prefer in Linux, and I won't use any virtual machine today, but I will use, there is a website called Play with Docker. So if you don't know how to install Docker, don't worry about that. If you don't want to configure, you just want to try how Docker works. So you can just use this URL. Let me share that. So you can just go to this URL and try how Docker works, or if you're comfortable, then you can try it on your machine. Okay. So let me. Okay, so I talked about creating Docker images. So all of the Docker images are stored at one single place, that is Docker Hub. Um, okay, so if you go to explore, one second. Okay, so if you go to this website, hub.docker.com, where all of the images of Docker are published or stored, you can use any image you want, first thing. So there are various kinds of images. First is the community edition, and second is enterprise edition. So community edition images are always free, but in enterprise they are, I think they cost some, I don't know the amount, but they do, I guess. Okay, so you can filter them out with verified publisher. Um, okay, so you see there is Oracle WebLogic Server, MySQL. So everything that you know will have a image there. So if you see there, Oracle JDK. Okay, so Java, if you know. Also, if I show you the operating system images that you can use, Alpine is from Docker. Okay. Second is Ubuntu. I think it's most famous for beginners. Debian, CentOS, Amazon Linux. You can also use that. You just need to download that image in your local system or even in play with Docker. Fedora. I use Fedora. Other is Oracle Linux, OpenSUSE. There are thousands of Linux distributions, so you can use any image, any Docker image of that operating system you want. Okay, so you can just explore this website. I won't spend much more time in that. Okay, so now after going to lab playwithdocker.com, you just need to add new instance and you will have your complete environment for Docker. So by default, not by default, but Docker uses the root powers. Okay, so if you here see what there is root power, so this user has root power. Um, can anyone drop in the chat that if they know what is root or if they have worked in Linux? So if not, I will explain that. Okay. Okay, so I will just show you some basic commands of Docker first, and then we will create the Docker image. Okay, I have listed all the commands here, so I will also share this file. Okay, first, since Docker uses root power or the root access. So in your normal base or virtual machine, you need to use a command called sudo command. But since this is already a root user, so I don't have to use that. So even if I don't use sudo, that's okay, it will work because it has root power. Okay, so what a root user is, it has all of the powers. Like it's what we call superhero of in a operating system. Okay, we can define that if you don't understand. Okay, so now if you want to check whether the Docker daemon is running or not, so you can check it with systemctl status Docker. Let me okay, in this environment, the systemctl command is not enabled, but if you are working in a virtual machine, so you can use this command, systemctl status docker. So what it will do is it will show the status of Docker daemon, that whether it's running, it's stopped, or um, it's not even on. Okay. Um, okay, let me zoom it a bit. Okay, I think it's good. Okay. Also, if you're running Docker in your virtual machine, so the Docker daemon must be running. So you can, this is for the virtual machines and your system, but here it's already for Docker environment, so we don't need these commands. But for your knowledge, I will just share that. So if you want to enable your Docker daemon, so what you need to do is first restart the Docker daemon service. I will not run this command. And second, you need to enable this. Okay. One second. Okay, so the Linux that Play with Docker is using is Alpine Linux. So how I got to know is this file contains all of the information about the operating system that we are using. Okay, so now we will see some commands about Docker. So first command that you can try is Docker images, that will list down all of the images that are present in your system. Since this is a cloud environment and I haven't downloaded or pulled in any image from the Docker hub, so it doesn't have any image. Also, if you want to see what containers are running right now, you can use Docker ps command. Again, not no container is running right now. Also, if you want to see all of the containers were um, that were there, that were exited or stopped or even running, so you can use docker ps-a command. It's all empty because there is no image. So let's pull some image from Docker hub. Okay, first thing you need to know is whenever you run this command, okay, I can will show you this, how you can use this Docker hub. So search for any Docker image you want. I will search for BusyBox. That is pretty basic Docker image. So what this is present in Docker hub. So how you can download it in your local system or in your cloud environment. So there is a command you can see here, that is docker pull busybox. So just copy that. Um, okay, and what docker pull command do is, first it will search locally in your system that whether the image is present or not. If it doesn't find any image, it will search from Docker Hub. Also, if we don't define any version of that image, so it will just take this as latest version by default. So now we have downloaded the BusyBox in our cloud environment. So now if we check, do we have any image? So yes, we have an image right now. Okay. So now that we have an image, but how can we access that? How can we run something in that image? So what we'll do is docker run busybox. So it didn't do anything, right? Why? Because we didn't give any instruction that after running busybox image, what it should do. So now, um, I will tell busybox to echo. Echo command is to print everything that we give the input. Like if I give this input, hello, so it will just display me the same thing. So now, first it didn't print anything as the output, it just exited. But now that we have given a command, now it trained hello. We can use anything like hello world. Normally we do this. So yeah, it will just return hello world. That was a pretty basic busybox image. Also, if you see docker ps command, sorry, ps-a, we ran three times the busybox. First was sh, that didn't print anything. Remember? Next, we gave the command echo hello. So that printed hello. Third, we ran echo hello world. Okay. Also, if you notice that we just ran 3 containers with just 3 commands. Isn't that amazing? Okay. Uh, um, okay, so I think I have covered it. Okay, yeah, I can also. Um, okay, so Docker and -IP command, what it does is -I option is used to give a interactive shell, and T is for terminal. Like it will give me a shell to work in the busybox image. So now I am in that container. You see the prompt got changed. First is it was dollar. Now it's slash hash. Okay. So if I can check the files and folders. ls command is used to print all of the files and folders in a particular folder. So we have bin dev etc. So it's like a complete operating system. Yeah, if we normally check in Linux system, we have all of these folders. So it's a operating system, but with limited things. Whatever we want, whatever software we want, we can add that in the containers. So it's not a complete operating system. Okay, depends on our needs. That's it. So now that I am in the container, I am present in the container and I don't want to use it further. So I can just enter exit and I am out of the container. So now if I check docker ps, sorry, it was not running. So now, yes, we ran this again. Also, if you notice that there are some names given to these containers. So if we don't specify the name of any container, so it just randomly assign them a particular name. So boring Franklin, jealous Ramanujan. So it's there are very interesting names that Docker came up with. Okay, so it all just random. So you can specify the name also. Now we will create the Docker image that we were using here. So just like BusyBox or any Docker image, we will create our own image. Okay, so also a few things that you need to know about images is that Docker uses a layered architecture. So if I create a image and if I do some changes in that, so it will just run the things that I changed, not the ones they already have. Okay, so that's a layered architecture. So that saves us a lot of time. So, okay. First, I will just create a folder that is Docker demo. Mkdir command is used to create a folder. In Linux, folders are usually referred as directories. Second thing, I want to go in the folder, and if you see, I am in Docker demo directory. Okay, now I said that to create any Docker image, we need to create a Docker file. So Vim is a editor, just like you can say VS Code editor, maybe. Okay, Docker file. So just like we create .py file or .c.cpp files, in Docker we create Docker file with no extension and the D must be capital. Otherwise it won't work. Okay, press enter. And I will just copy the code and I will explain this code. Okay, so now this is the format for a Docker file. So first line, if you see that it's from Ubuntu colon 16.04. So what it means? First thing you always need to create a Docker image is that you need a source image. So in this Docker file, we are using the Ubuntu 16.04 version. So in Ubuntu, we will create a Flask application. Okay. Next thing is, um, if we had some time, I will explain it in both ways, but just focus on Docker file right now. Second thing is run. Run keyword is used to run a command. So when you download a Ubuntu image from Docker Hub, okay, so it will download it from Docker Hub because we don't have it locally. Now you have your Ubuntu machine. Now, what's the next thing that you need to run in that machine? Is that apt-get update. It will update all of the repositories. Double ampersand is used to like it will just run all of these commands in a single thing, because we can also use it as run apt-get apt update all, and this line can be in the another line with the same keyword run, but that will just make the Docker file bigger, so I'm just using it with ampersand. So next thing, we need to create a Flask application. Okay, for Flask we need Python, and we will install it with apt-get install -y python. So now let me explain this command. Apt-get is a package manager in Debian systems like Ubuntu. It is used in Windows. We just normally download the .exe files and we will just press next, 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 and finish. So, but in Linux we use command line. Um, okay, and for software to install, we need a package manager, and we need a command. We have a command called apt-get install. We will ask apt-get that install Python. But if you notice, in Windows we always get a prompt or a window open that usually asks us if you want to install that, yes or no. Okay, that normally happens in Windows, but in Linux it will be in the command line. So since we are not present in that Ubuntu image, because since it's building in Docker, so what we need to do is we have to use a option called -y, that when it prompts me that if you want to install that software or not, it will give them y. That means yes. Otherwise, it will just exit and our Docker image will not be built. Okay. Next, after installing Python, we need to install pip, because pip will install Flask. So I just used it um, after this, or you can use it in another line. Uh, Similarly, like run apt-get install Python pip, like -y also. Okay, next is run pip install Flask. Now Python is installed, pip is installed. Now we need Flask because our application that will be running is in Flask. Okay, I think these three lines are you got it. If you have any question, uh, uh, then you can drop it in the chat. Um, if you have any question regarding these 3 lines. Okay. You all are learning Docker for the first time, or you know already. Can we use Alpine Linux image? Yeah, we can use any Linux image. That's not a problem. Yeah. You can use Oracle Linux, Fedora. Red Hat is enterprise, so it will require some um, amount, I guess. It's paid version actually. So if you don't want to spend any money and also want the same features of Red Hat, you can install Fedora or CentOS. Okay, so I think I will just jump to the next line, that is copy app.py slash opt slash. Okay, so this command, what it will do is, we have the Flask application that is present in this file in our cloud environment. Okay, now we want the same application to run in the Docker image, so we are just copying the same code in the slash opt slash folder. We can also specify here that slash opt slash app.py, but it's the same name, so I didn't specify that. Next is, we need to tell where we want to run the Flask application. So we just need to specify the entry point. Flask app, this is the location of the Flask app, and we will just give the command, that is flask run host 0.0.0.0, that is the local host, and hyphen port, that it on 8080 port we will be running this Flask application. So I will just save it. Now I need to create a Flask application. So I will just copy the code. Okay, so it's just a simple Flask application. We just import OS from Flask. It's a basic Flask application, and the syntax are pretty much easy. So from Flask, import Flask, app equal to Flask name. We use route. I think I don't want to move into Flask, but what this application will do is, uh, if we go to the local host colon the port which I will define, it will display me welcome. And if I use this URL, like let's suppose this URL I am using for this part. Let's suppose this is the same URL. So when I use labs.playwithdocker.com, it will display me welcome. And if I specify slash how are you after this, so it will display me I'm good, how about you? Okay, so that's the pretty basic Flask application. It's slow in cloud environment, but that's okay. Last um, last file is, we need to specify the requirements file. We just need Flask. Okay, now the Docker file is created, the Flask application is created, but now what we will do with that Docker file, how we are going to build a container from a Docker file. So for that we use docker build dot is nothing but the build context and not period. Don't specify it's a period, it's a build context. And also we can name the image that we are creating, Docker demo, the same name. Okay, so without -t docker demo, it will not give me the name of that image. So that's why I'm just specifying that. Now, first, you should consider on this part that it's running the first step, that was from Ubuntu 16.04. Okay, now it's running the step 2, that was to get all the updates in Ubuntu 16.04 and install Python and also pip. If you see some red lines, that's okay. We don't need that. It will take some time to build that image. So if you have any question in the meanwhile, I will address them. You can drop it in the chat. Feel free to ask any questions, even if it's silly. Right now it's installing the Python pip. So after that, we will have the step 3, that is, it will install the Flask um, in this Docker image. It's installing the Flask application if you see step 3. And step 4 was to copy the Flask application in /opt/opt folder. And the last was to run this Flask application. So now the Docker container that we have the Docker image we just have built, we can just see that. um, Let me clear the screen first. Okay, so now if we see what are the images that we have. Okay, Docker demo 35 seconds ago, 436 MB. Okay, Docker image is built now. From Docker image, we run the containers. How can we run the containers? Since the application was built in port 8080, so now Docker and the other world can't communicate. So we need a source or a thing that is used to connect the both worlds, like it's like parallel worlds. Okay, so for that we will use -dit -p -p or -publish. P is to specify the port that we will use in this container. So I will use 9000 port. And for the Flask application, it was 8080 port. Okay. And what image we are using? Docker demo. Okay. So this command will run a container. I think, okay, first do that. Enter. So it will prompt me the container ID. So now if we see all of the, this is a hash in the hash format. It's the container ID that we just trained. Okay. Now if we see if we have any running container. So if you see, we have a running container that is 6cc62. That is the same container ID that we have just built from this image. Image that we have used is Docker demo. Command is Flask app that we just gave in the last part.
नहीं कर रही टीचर बोले
Yes, Francisco, I enjoy using Docker. Uh, I will tell about the IBM journey, but let's focus on Docker first. We just have a few steps left, so let's finish that, and we will talk about. We will discuss everything that you need, that you want to know. So, if you see the command that ran is flask app, and this was the command that ran. Okay, and it's created 27 seconds ago, and the status is up. That means it's running, and the port we have used is 9000 for this world, and in the Docker we are using 8080 port, and the name is just random name, so uh, it doesn't matter. We just need the container ID. Now, if I want um, a terminal, if I remove the hyphen D option, it will detach. Like it will give me. Oh, it's already allocated, so I will just give another port. Um, let's say 7000. Okay, so now before this command, I gave docker run hyphen dit hyphen p and this. Uh, I shouldn't have run that, but that's okay. Okay. So hyphen d command, what it does, it will not give me the terminal. It will just run the Docker container. And if I remove the hyphen d option, it will give me the terminal and what it's doing. So if you notice that Flask, our Flask app is running right now. I hope I will. Thank God. Okay, so if I want to just check if our Flask app is running or not, so we will do this by 7000. Wait. What? Okay, so if I see the curl command is like if we go to the browser and we search for a URL and it will display me some output. Just like similarly, the curl command is for the command line that whatever the website or the application has, it will just display me the output. So when I use curl HTTP, since we are not using the secured HTTP protocol, so it's just running on HTTP protocol. And if you notice that the URL that we gave was 0.0.0.0, so that is local host, and the port that we opened was 9000 for this application, so it gave me the output that is welcome. So another if you notice that another was that this was the simple URL, and if we specify slash how are you, it will display me another output. So it's displaying me I'm good, how about you? So that was all for the Docker containers. We are running a Docker container. Okay. Our Docker container is running. That means yeah, we built the Docker container from a Docker image. Docker image was built from Docker file. So I think I covered everything. Let's see. Yeah, that was okay. So yeah, that was about this workshop. So you can maybe consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Maybe connect on Twitter or LinkedIn if you are shy enough not to drop a doubt here. So you can just ping me on my socials. Yeah. Okay, so now that we have covered everything for Docker, so you can ask me anything about, I don't know, anything you want. I will just stop sharing.
Any question?
Okay, Safi, or I think it's Safi. Safi was asking me about my IBM journey. Before joining or after joining, that you need to specify. How to set up Docker in our machine. Okay, okay, I will just do that. Let me just start my virtual machine first. So I will explain that too. Anything else? Did you enjoy the Docker part? I mean, when I first learned about Docker, it was quite interesting that the whole operating system is just built in just a few commands, just a single command actually. Okay, before joining, okay, so IBM came to the campus. It was a pool campus, so we had around 5 rounds. We had around 5 rounds. So um, yeah, I just completed all of them and I got the placement. And about interview, I can share that experience. In my interview, since I was Red Hat certified and all of the DevOps and cloud computing part in my resume, so the interviewer asked me about those things. Um, it was first he was impressed that I am Red Hat certified. So, uh, so first impression was good, but then he wanted to know whether I know the things that are mentioned in my CV or not. So he just asked me about Ansible, the Docker architecture, how it works, and all, cloud computing services. Or I think also from Linux there was some questions. So he asked me in detail whether I know those things or not. Yeah. Uh, Wait. Yeah, I think that's pretty much about my interview. It was around 1 hour. The interview went around for 1 hour, so I enjoyed my interview. It was good. Um, okay, ma'am, shall we get the workshop participant certificates? I don't know about the certificates, so you can ask the organizers of this event. Preet is asking if I'm a complete beginner to DevOps, then what things should I learn first and what path should I follow? Okay, so in DevOps, there are many tools that you have, but you don't need to focus on all of them. You can, there are various fields in DevOps that you can explore. The one which I showed you here was Docker, that is in the containers part. So in containers we have lots of tools: Docker, Kubernetes, Docker Swarm. You can explore that. If you want to go in automation, we have Ansible. I worked in Ansible and I'm also certified in that. So it's pretty amazing tool to work on. Also, the basic things that you need to know in DevOps are Python, mainly Python, because mainly Python knowledge is required, and also YAML, that is YAML. It's pretty much like JSON, but it's the superset of JSON. So these are the basic things. And if even if you're not good in programming, that's okay. I was not good at programming at all when I learned about DevOps. So if you're not good in programming, you can choose cloud computing, DevOps field. These are pretty amazing fields to work in. Yeah, Rahul, I think I just answered your question. Thank you, Francisco, for joining. That was unexpected. Okay, okay. Someone is asking, can you highlight the tools used in DevOps for beginners like us? Okay, so there are many tools that you can explore. Uh, I will prefer Docker itself. Docker is pretty not beginner friendly, but it's amazing tool to learn, because after that you can explore Kubernetes, and you can explore Ansible, um, Maven if you are into Java, also Jenkins is a CI/CD tool, GitLab if you know what is GitLab. I I will I will upload some videos on that, because I didn't got the time, but yeah, I will. I am planning to upload all of the videos on DevOps, particularly for DevOps. So maybe you can check that, because it's a lot to explain. Um, okay, how can we use Docker for deploying H5 model for deep learning? I'm not into deep learning or machine learning, so I can't really help you in that. I haven't worked in that, but sorry about that. I haven't worked in that.
Any question?
Uh, Now I will just show you how can we run Docker in our local system. I'm using Fedora 33 virtual machine right now. Okay. Okay. Let me share my screen first. I think I will just turn off my camera because it's taking a load on my system. Okay. Let me know if you can see the black screen of the virtual machine.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
okay. Actually, virtual machines can take a lot of load. That's what you are seeing right now. So computers can get hang. So that's why we need containers. Okay, so this is the terminal. So in Fedora, the package manager is DNF. The older one was Yum, and in the Python application, if you see that in Ubuntu we use apt-get, right? So this is similar kind of thing. In Fedora we use DNF. So how can you install the Docker? We will not discuss that, because we have the documentation of Docker that will explain how you can install Docker in your machine. You can There are 3 to 4 ways that you can install the Docker in your machine. Okay, I will not include that, because that uh, that is already explained in the docs itself. I will just share the link to let me do that first. Okay, so whatever you want to learn uh, regarding any tool, it's Docker or Python or I don't know about Java. Docker, Python, Kubernetes, Jenkins. Every tool has its own official documentation. So the best way is to learn from that. Okay, and also if you're a complete beginner, first refer to some videos on that tool. After that, the documentation will be pretty much easy to understand. Okay, so okay, so you can install this for Mac or Windows or Linux distribution. We can install Docker in these distributions. So um, since I'm using Fedora, so I will just search for Fedora, and these are the commands that I need to use to install the Docker tool in my operating system. Okay, so since okay, so Docker daemon is running. So that was the command that I tried to run on the cloud environment, but since it was not supported, so now that you can see that it's active because I enabled the Docker daemon. Okay, so what enabling does is, even if you turn off this machine and like restart, so the Docker daemon will not stop and you don't need to run the command that is systemctl start docker every time that you start the virtual machine. Okay, now I think I have a few images. It's the same thing, but the thing that we need to add every time is sudo, because the user you which I have which I am using, that is Seema, is not a root user, so that's why we use sudo. And I think it's the best practice to not use sudo. So I have different images. I have lots of images, so I was just working around Docker, so that's why. And I used Alpine. Somebody was asking if we can use Alpine or not. So we can use any Docker image that we want and that is present on Docker Hub, or even we can create our own Docker image that we just did and upload it on Docker Hub so that other users can also use that image. Okay, so that's why there is Dockerify. So in our local system, we need to use sudo if you are not a root user, and I prefer that you don't log in with root user. Okay, just type sudo every time you use any Docker command, because a Docker daemon requires a root privileges. Also, um, another tools that we have right now is, if you don't want to use Docker, we have similar tools, that is Podman, build and Scopio. Okay, Podman is kind of a replacement for Docker because it doesn't use the Docker like the heavy daemon, because the daemon is so heavy. So it just removed the concept of daemon, and we have our Podman. In Podman, all of the commands that we are using with Docker are same. So uh, I haven't installed Podman in this machine. So if I had, so I will just run Podman images. In Podman, I will not use sudo because it doesn't require the root privileges. Okay, I had a talk about these tools a year ago in uh, Confab Cloud Community Days, so you can check that, or maybe just explore it on the internet. We have the documentation of every tool, so that's the best way to learn. Anything else you want me to do in this demo, or you can ask any question. Um, there's a certain issue in Docker Prompt linkage. I think I haven't explored that open Vino. I don't know about that. What's that? I don't know. Preet is asking, you are working on system engineering, so can you share what we have to get job in the same? Um, okay, so the best advice is you just need to focus on the skills that you have or that you want to have. Um, yeah, just learn the basic things and also some tools or programming languages that are used in the development or the industries. uh, DSA will help you to crack, maybe to clear, first thing, the to clear the interviews and the what we call is the 2-3 rounds of a particular company. But after that, I think you don't need DSA ever. uh, in some companies you need that, but the work that I'm doing right now doesn't require any DSA thing. So we just use APIs, Postman, Docker, Git, GitHub, the pretty basic things that we use. So the tools that you can use, that you can learn, and that are pretty much required, so that will give you an edge, because after getting a job, you will be working on those tools. So you can use GitHub, that is completely necessary, because before this coronavirus, we were already using it on GitHub, but since now everything is on remote, so now these tools are pretty much necessary. So learn them. Also, right now, you can do open source contributions, you can write technical blogs, you can share your journey. Maybe you can create your own YouTube channel, or like share whatever you learn. I think that's the best way, because when you start learning in public, you get a lot of feedback and you work much more harder. And yeah, you get different types of feedbacks and you learn much more after that. Take some challenges that are like 100 days of code, 100 days of DevOps, anything, because these challenges help you to stay consistent, to learn. So yeah, I think also learn one programming language or maybe two. Or the other thing that you can do is uh, you you must have a command on a single programming language. But if you apply for a job, let's say it requires Go or Java, so you must be flexible to learn any tool or any programming language, because uh, in industry you have to do that. Uh, they will just give you 2 to 3 days to learn a particular language or particular tool. You don't have much time. So the thing is, before, like in your BTech journey, you need to learn how to learn. Okay, that sounds funny, but yeah, you need to learn that how you can learn efficiently and maybe in fast way. Okay, I think that's the best advice that I can give you right now, because um, I have gone through all of the stages. So yeah, anything else? Also, should I stop my virtual machine, because it will lag if I don't? Okay, I'm just shutting down my virtual machine. You can ask me anything, don't be shy. Also, um, Also, this is the link to install Docker in your local system and explore the documentation. But before that, you just explore some YouTube videos on a particular tool, because you need to visualize everything. After that, you will be able to understand the documentation pretty much easier. Okay.
Any question?
Did you all understand everything that I covered today, or like how much did you understand, like in percentage?
Ma'am, 95%.
Don't lie. The tools in DevOps are tough in start, but you will just love working in those tools. Thank you, Francesco, again for staying. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, let's do self promotion. I don't usually do that, but yeah, I think maybe I can help, or you can help me. So it's my YouTube channel. You can consider, you may consider subscribing. It's not necessary, and if you don't, then it's okay. You will still get the certificate for this workshop, and you still will get the knowledge. And all of the socials are in my about page. Thank you so much. Seema, can you help out with an engagement community so we can ask one more questions later? Okay. Yeah, I will just share the Discord link of the community. I think I have already attached all of the links in my YouTube channel about page. So uh, the Discord channel, my Twitter, my what LinkedIn, everything is in there. Yeah. This. Okay. Um, if you have any question, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. So yeah, I will try to answer your question.
I, Akshay Panchwala, extend my privilege to propose a vote of thanks to all those organized teams, students, volunteers, and faculties.
Once again, I would like to state that we are glad to the speaker here over the meeting.
We thank you for being with us. It has remained a pronounced pleasure.
Have a great day ahead. We value you and every moment that you stay in this temple of learning. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you, ma'am.
Yeah, let me address some questions in the chat. Also, thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah. What's the market demand and pay for these skills? Okay. If you know that machine learning AI have lots of demand, but in the same way, DevOps and cloud computing have a lot of demand, and the pay scale is really high depending on the skills you have. So the some of the positions the that you can try is DevOps engineer. Um, that is that is pretty amazing. So what a DevOps engineer do is DevOps is you will know a lot of tools. So it's not just one programming language or one tool that you are working on, but a lots of tools. So the complete cycle from starting with the code and to the production of that product is it's all covered in the DevOps part. Okay. Thank you, Arsh, for um, um, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Mm, okay. Is that it? I can I just leave? Maybe if you don't have any questions. Thank you so much. More DevOps content is coming. I will shoot some videos today. So yeah. I hope you learned something. Yeah. Also, one request, you can maybe share on your socials uh, and tag me what you learned in this session, what are the things you gained from this session, not just that we attend this session, but I need you to post the learnings that you gained from this session. That's it. It's not compulsory, but you can. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me, and yeah, see you and maybe connect with you on LinkedIn and socials. Yeah, thank you so much.